Hi everyone, Yomi Lover here, and I just wanted to take a look back at one of my favorite plays, The Phantom of the Opera. Originally a novel made in 1909 by Gaston Leroux, The Phantom of the Opera stands as a titular cornerstone of French culture that we admire today. But I want to talk about the play. The play itself goes over the story of Eric, who is trying to manipulate a young woman named Christine into loving him, which is kind of just, that's kind of messed up. Let's just be honest, that's messed up. But let's talk about how the play goes. It's actually played off as a warning against people who are just not that well. Let's just be honest. Eric is a genius in the novel, and he is portrayed as a genius in the play. And the thing about being a genius is it doesn't necessarily make you a good person. You could be a bad person and still be a genius, but you could also be a good person and still be a genius. But let's talk about how the storyline goes for the Phantom of the Opera. The character of Christine is presented as a maiden, just trying to fit into the opera house and trying to learn the ropes of the opera populaire, and just trying to just survive in the opera house. And she is kind of just, she stands out as a kind of the maiden trope in stories where, the fair maiden is in trouble, needs help, and she represents innocence in a way. Innocence. The Christine in the novel is a blonde woman, and the Christine in the play is a brunette, which is okay. It's an okay change, but I'm not here to differentiate the difference between the novel and the play. The play itself is presented to an audience that is more receptive to a story that is between a love triangle and kind of a cautionary tale. So the cautionary tale is be careful who you trust, and the love triangle is between Raoul, Christine, and the Phantom. And Raoul is kind of presented as the ideal man, and he's from a station of, wealth and prosperity, and he's kind of presented as a gentleman, which is the opposite of Eric. Eric is kind of mischievous, conniving, and just not really in the limelight. He hides in the shadows while Raoul basks in the sunlight. And the two are so night and day. They're not the same. They're not the same in any way, shape, or form. But Raoul is ideally what Eric aspires to be, which is a handsome, well-educated gentleman. And Eric, in contrast, is deformed and just kind of, he's deformed, but he's a genius, which makes up for his deformity. And in the play, the idea of ugliness being the inner workings of the soul is presented to the audience. It's not being ugly that makes Eric evil. It's being ugly on the inside that makes Eric evil. And when you're ugly on the inside, people naturally don't want to associate themselves with you. I've seen it in real life, where you could have a good-looking person who is completely nasty on the inside, and people don't want to associate with them. And it's just human nature to not want to be around that because it's unpleasant, and it's terrible, and it's not a good relationship to be in. Whereas being with a good person who is good on the inside and intelligent and also well-rounded and just smart is something that most people want to be around, because that leads to prosperity and that leads to happiness in a sense. But you could have people that are too smart for their own good, and it becomes a toxic relationship, which is kind of what happened in The Phantom of the Opera, where Eric kidnaps Christine at the end of the story and tries to force his love on her. But Christine is so kind and gentle and innocent that she dismisses it and gives him a kiss as a way to kind of just give back his humanity, in a sense. And at the end, she doesn't stay with the Phantom, she leaves the Phantom. And he is just left with the option of dying in the opera house or leaving and starting anew. And I think where it differentiates in the book and the play leaves it open for interpretation that Eric survived or not. Whereas the book just kills him off and says, "Oh, we're going to we're going to just kill off the Phantom because he was miserable being ugly anyways, and that's the reason why he died and lived a miserable life." No. See, this is why I like the play more than the book, because the play leaves it for interpretation whether or not Eric survived or not. And I think that's a good way to leave it, because it leaves it open for, well, no, let's not talk about Love Never Dies. Love Never Dies is a shitty play. I would never watch Love Never Dies. I did watch it, I watched it, but it is not the sequel for me. Don't watch Love Never Dies. Just watch the Phantom of the Opera play, because the Phantom of the Opera play is a complete story on its own. And I just love the aesthetic of this musical. Everything from the colors, the set design, to the characters in motion, and the idea behind it, of it being a musical, is just so intriguing. Everything is written very well. I would just say that Andrew Lloyd Webber did a good job writing the playwright for this play, and just writing songs to go with it and just making it intriguing as all possible. And it fits with the theme of the opera house, because the opera is a musical place where people just sing and perform and do theater. And the Phantom just is a very interesting character on his own. But he represents everything that, well, let's just say he's a warning for men who just kind of, I want to say, are a little overbearing, but their heart's in the right place. And he's also an example of a redemption story, that you can be redeemed last minute, even if you've done things that are just terrible. And, and it's this idea of redemption that's presented in the Phantom of the Opera that I think is one of the cornerstones of storytelling that we need to be telling today. Well, those are my thoughts on the Phantom of the Opera play. Let me know what you think in the comments section, and we could get a discussion open. All right,